Member Sue Moroni.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou e te iwi, tōko iwi. Ngati Haua kua tai mai. Kano e te mihi ki a koutou, ki a tātou katoa. Mr Speaker, it's a great honour to take a short call on this bill because this is a little reflective of some of my own whakapapa. Being born and raised in the Walton and Matamata areas, this is very appropriate to be able to speak in favour of this settlement bill. I want to pay my respects to the iwi and to their tenacity. Certainly in my upbringing, the name of Wiremu Tamihana was something that we talked about a lot. We talked about a lot in our education system, actually. Not nearly enough, but certainly Wiremu Tamihana in the folklore and the culture and the discussion about the area in which I was brought up in was very, very prominent, and so it should be. Mr Speaker, I want to particularly just reflect and support the comments made by the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta, Meka Whaitiri and Lewis Award when they have spoken on this bill. Particularly want to back up the idea that part of the settlement and Ngati Haua having a relationship with the Matamata Piako District Council, I do see as a real opportunity going forward, and I hope that that is an opportunity that the Council will make the most of, because I can see a real opportunity for not just the management and the decisions around the Waharoa aerodrome, but many other things that will benefit our part of the country as well. And I'm really pleased to see some very familiar names of scenic reserves in our part of the country that are going to be under the guardianship and the very good guardianship of Ngati Haua, because I have complete and utter faith that that means that the environmental aspects of those very important pieces of land will be absolutely guaranteed, and that makes me feel very proud. Mr Speaker, I'm interested in thinking about and hope to ponder on this more before the third reading comes along of this bill, about the matters that were taking place in Waharoa in the 1950s, where land was taken by the state for infrastructure development, and that was done against the wishes of the collective land ownership at the time. My family has some involvement with that, and I have no idea, but I will undertake to try and find out whether they were part of that collective movement or not. But my grandparents, Eleanor and Charlie Casey, owned the land at the beginning of the area that was taken under the Public Works Act for the railway going to the Kaimai Tunnel. It's a little bit of a departure, but I've got to say, every time I drive over the Kaimai ranges and get behind three trucks that are trying to overtake each other going up the Kaimai, that road on the Kaimais, and get stuck behind them, I really sit there and curse and wonder why men lost their lives putting the Kaimai tunnel through. We've seen so much over that road cargo-wise. I'd like to see much more of it go through the actual railway tunnel, but I depart from what I really wanted to say. The piece of people are familiar with that part of the country. If you're driving along on State Highway 27 and there's an overpass that goes over the railway line going through the Kaimai Tunnel, the land sitting beneath that was the land that my grandparents farmed. And it's such an important part of our family's history and our whakapapa that my mother has made sure that my children, the great-grandchildren of Eleanor and Charlie Casey, have gone, and even though that land has nothing to do necessarily with our family these days, my children are taken for a walk by their grandparents around that land and told the story about my mother's upbringing there and and the walnut tree, the very famous walnut tree on that piece of land, and her upbringing in Waharoa. And the story is not always a pleasant story, because there were frictions and there were conflicts and there were misunderstandings and there were laws. There were laws that got in the way of good relationships. And so, Mr Speaker, I'm not going to say much more at the second reading except to congratulate the iwi for their good grace in finding a way forward with the Crown and the state, and to wish them all the best for the future, and to look forward to the third reading of this bill.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Ngati Haua Claims Settlement Bill, second reading.
This bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. I therefore call on Government Order of the Day number 3.